Beep, 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 beep. Hello, and welcome to the Court of the EDI Jester. How the devil are we all? I've got something rather nice, rather interesting, and rather brave to share with you in this particular episode of my wibbling nonsense. Now, here we go. Become a warrior teacher, buy me a coffee, YouTuber demonetizing everything. I don't know what they're playing at, but, it's probably the truth, isn't it? So, if you can do me a super thanks or subscribe to my Substack or, do please. Right, let's talk about Andrew Griffith MP. Now, Andrew Griffith MP is a Member of Parliament for Arundel and South Downs in the beautiful West Sussex, right? All right, so we're talking about Andrew Griffith MP. Hello, Andrew Griffith MP. And thank you, Andrew Griffith MP, for the grasping of this particular thorny nettle. It begins with a tweet. People should be able to exercise lawful freedom of expression without the fear of having their bank accounts closed. Which I agree with. Andrew, I agree with that 100%, but I think it's not strong enough. But then that's me, innit, generally. Right, that's not strong enough. It should say, people should be able to have a bank account which cannot be removed without proof of criminality. That's what it should say, yeah? That's what it should say. Yesterday, I wrote to some of the UK's biggest banks to express that this is a fundamental right, and we will take the action necessary to protect it. Tomorrow morning, which was a couple of days ago, so the meeting is taking place. I hope Andrew will come back and keep us informed on what's going to happen with this meeting, because this is very important, because what you're talking about is people that are inculcated in all of it. I know it's not about gender, right? But it's probably about all of it, because you know damn well if they're doing this sustainable crap and inclusivity nonsense that they're involved in gender and critical race theory and queer theory. They'll have it all. There's some, spiders sitting around the organisation somewhere. So Andrew is actually going to meet with bank leaders and discuss this important issue and make clear the government's expectations. To which I responded, interesting, Andrew, please keep us posted. This is systemic wokery. Right? People are going to start to realise it really is a thing sooner or later, aren't they? It really is a thing. But Andrew has kindly provided for us, for our delectation and enjoyment, I shall say, the delectation and enjoyment, the letters he's actually written to the banks in lieu or in advance of the meetings that he's going to be having with them. So let's have a look and see what he wrote, because it's very interesting. You will be aware, he says, Dear CEO, you will be aware, he says, of publicity around allegations of client debanking. In recent weeks and months, this has rightly raised significant concerns in both Houses of Parliament, including throughout the passage of the Financial Services and Markets Act 2023 and again last week. The government is unequivocal that banks and other payment service providers pay attention. Online banks and online service providers, which occupy a privileged place in society, should not be terminating contracts of payment account facilities on grounds to the user exercising of their right to lawful freedom of expression or beliefs. I want to be clear that the government strongly supports this fundamental right afforded to all people in British society and will not hesitate to take the action necessary to protect it. This is great. I'm loving this. The CEO of the FCA, which I think I call him the FSA. That's me all over, innit? Get it wrong. The Financial Conduct Authority, giving evidence to the Treasury Select Committee last week on Wednesday the 19th of July, was clear in his view. I can give you the general position. You are not able to discriminate on the basis of protected characteristics. You are not able to discriminate on the basis of political views either. But yet they are. In December last year, the government committed to gather evidence on the balance of rights and obligations between users and providers of payment services, alongside the government's statutory review of the Payment Services Regulation 2017. This call for evidence closed on the 7th of April 2023. Having analysed this feedback, the government has published a policy statement setting out the response it received to its questions on this payment account contract. On this topic, and the government's proposed reforms to strengthen requirements relating to payment account contract terminations. So we're here, aren't we? Here's what we found. Here's what's been going on. You sly, nasty, sustainable goals, bunch of nutters, right? Here's what we found. The reforms will require that payment account providers must provide at least 90 days notice when choosing to terminate a contract. Unless for a serious and uncorrected breach, such as non-payment, or other serious occurrence, and clarifying that clauses in user agreements purporting to allow termination for other matters, such as brand protection, cannot be used to circumvent this. They're going to clarify that clauses in user agreements purporting to allow termination for other matters, if they're rude to staff or whatever it may be, such as brand protection, cannot be used to circumvent this. Lesser termination periods or termination without notice would exceptionally continue to be allowed for, hang on, I've got to look at that bit properly, exceptionally be allowed for, what does that say? Oh, right. Exceptionally be allowed for example where a provider is obliged to terminate the contract to comply with the law, in particular financial crime law. So this is some way towards what I'm saying, which is you don't get to do it at all unless the law's been broken. Right? So we're on our way with this. We're on our way with what seems to be some improvement in things that as they currently are for those that are banking, because it's very worrying. This should also cover YouTube, by the way, and Patreon, and Twitter, and everybody else. They all need covering, right? Because although you may not pay them direct, you are the product. They are using your data. As far as I'm concerned, that's a financial relationships. That's a contractual relationships. This should apply to all of them. You don't get to close an account unless it breaks the law. End of story. They're going to improve transparency for users in receiving a clear understanding why their payment account contract has been terminated by stating in regulation that a clear and tailored explanatory reason must be given, unless to do so would be unlawful. Again, framing this within the concept of the law. The government intends to enact these reforms to the relevant regulations via secondary. What does that mean? Via secondary legislation. So they're going to add it on, I suppose, is what it means. Through the powers granted in the Financial Services and Markets Act 2023. In so doing, the government will work closely with financial institutions, the Home Office, the National Crime Agency and the Financial Conduct Authority to ensure that these new regulations continue to support the fight against financial crime. While I recognise that there is further detail to be provided as the regulations are developed, given the strength of feeling expressed from across Parliament and by the public, I encourage you to take action on this policy without delay and to use your best endeavours to implement changes which help protect and reassure customers on this important matter. It will, for example, generally be simple to extend notice periods of any closure to the new 90-day minimum. Given the interest in this matters, I am copying this letter to the Home Secretary, the Security Minister, the Chair and Chief Executive of the Financial Conduct Authority, the Chair of Treasury Select Committee and the Chairman of the Lords Economic Affairs Committee. What can I say? Andrew Griffiths MP, but thank you. We're off, right? We're off and running. There are a number of things that have arisen out of this fiasco with the banks. And I think the one that I'm hearing from people, not ordinary people, not those sitting around having cheese boards and telling lies about others, ordinary people, is the concern, the worry about losing a bank account is immense. The worry about losing a payment provider if you're self-employed or a small micro business. The worry is immense. It's a daily worry, I can tell you that myself. It's a daily worry that they're going to come and get you. And the stress that it causes is monumental. So I like what's being said here and I like the way it's being looked at, and obviously it will form as time goes on and we'll see what happens. But my biggest concern is that it will not be anywhere near strong enough. It is absolutely imperative that YouTube, Twitter, Facebook are placed in a straitjacket that makes it phenomenally difficult to terminate anything or anyone that they are involved with in a business contract. And yes, if you're a free user, to me it's still a business contract because they're using your data, right? So it's got to be made much, much stronger. They can't remove your service. They can't remove your service until a breach of the law has been established in a courtroom, and they are of an obligation to provide services to anyone who requires them. Do your due diligence by all means, but you shouldn't be able to go, I'm sorry, you're not a limited company, you're self-employed, we're not going to do business with you. That needs to stop for a start, right? So when I'm talking about payment providers, I mean people like PayPal and Stripe and Wise and all these banks that are online now, Starling Bank, whoever it may be. All of them need to be brought into line All of them. Termination of service should not be a go-to thing. If they want to terminate somebody's service, there should be a full investigation. And there better be some absolute evidence of criminality before that investigation is allowed to happen. And likewise, as Andrew has said, under no circumstances should brand damage limitation be an excuse. Because we've seen the wibbling user services from these nonsense merchants. And it's about time that they were kicked into touch. And hopefully what Andrew is doing here will bring about the start of it. It's time these nutter corporates who are sucking on the social justice tea and pretending that they really give a damn when in fact they're just right-wing corporate monsters were brought to heel. And this may well be the beginning of when that happens. Okay, go great. Go well, and have a lovely day. And I'll see you later. Ta-ra, peeps.